Welcome to Barbecuing with Bolen, the activity for students who are tired of its learning pages and Teams meetings. So if you're interested in learning how to cook, if you want to become a pit master, or if you just want to make fun of one of your goofy teachers, then join us for today's episode. Hello, welcome to Barbecuing with Bolen. Today we're talking about two things that I love. No, not Doug and Pixie. Today we're talking about barbecue side dishes and Christmas presents. So if you're interested in learning to make a great mac and cheese as a barbecue side dish, then join me for today's Barbecuing with Bolen. So I've got some number 35 elbow macaronis cooking on the stove here. Got about a pound of these macaronis boiling away. Really, three things I want you to keep in mind while you're cooking macaroni. Number one is that you want to have plenty of water when you're cooking your macaroni. You don't want to skimp on the water here. Number two is you want that water nice and salty. In fact, you probably want to salt it a little more than you might think. That macaroni is going to absorb some salt. It's going to give it some nice flavors, but you're going to need it to be a little more salty than you might think because it won't absorb as much salt as you might imagine. And then the third thing that I want you to keep in mind is to stir that macaroni often. You don't want it to be cooked inconsistently, so stirring will help you get that nice cook. Today we're looking for a nice al dente. We want a firm macaroni when it comes off the stove. We don't want it overcooked. We don't want it too soft because, remember, you're going to put this macaroni and cheese in the oven at the end, and it's going to continue to cook a little bit more. So while my butter melts for my cheese sauce, I thought I'd share with you a little bit about the Christmas aspect of today's show. Recently, we had some guests over for dinner, and my sister-in-law raved about the mac and cheese. She shared with me that she'd love to know how to make this. And so I thought I'd put together a barbecue and bowling video today about barbecue side dishes, about mac and cheese. And in that video, I'd share with Christy how to make this mac and cheese. So Christy, Merry Christmas, and I hope you enjoy this mac and cheese for years to come. So our butter's just about melted, and we're going to be adding equal parts flour to butter. Today I've got a half cup of butter. 1 stick of butter is a half cup. And I've got a half cup of all-purpose flour. What we're going to be doing here is making the base for the cheese sauce. We're going to be making, if you will, almost like a bechamel or a cheese sauce. And then we're going to be adding that to our macaroni later on. The inspiration for this macaroni and cheese really comes from two places. One is the Kraft macaroni and cheese that my kids love, that creamy, cheesy macaroni and cheese that comes in a box. And the other is my grandmother. So I've really taken the best of both worlds and tried to combine them in this mac and cheese recipe. So we've added the flour to the butter, and we're working on our roux. Right now you can see the consistency. It's like a pasty substance. And what that's doing is cooking in there. You want that flour to cook. If you're in the kitchen and you can smell it, what you want to smell is a nutty smell. That's going to tell you that flour's cooked. You don't want to have a floury taste in your mac and cheese. You want to have a nice creamy taste. And one of the ways that you're going to do that is by cooking this roux mixture until you start to smell the fragrance of nuts. Once your kitchen smells like nuts, you'll know that your roux is done. But right now I'm going to continue to stir it. I'm going to continue to cook it, and I'll be back in a minute once we're ready to add the milk. So you can see that the roux has changed colors. We've now gotten a nice golden brown. That means it's time to add the milk. I'm going to be adding about 5 cups of whole milk today. Really do like whole milk for the mac and cheese. But you can see that it's time for me to switch and to add that milk. I just added my 5 cups of milk to my roux that I had cooked. And there are really two things to keep in mind when you add your milk. Number one is that you need to stir it constantly. You don't want to get a lumpy cream sauce. Nobody likes that. And the second thing to keep in mind is that this cream sauce is not going to be fully thickened until it starts to boil. So you're going to want to bring this sauce to a slow simmer, stirring constantly to make sure that you get that consistency just like you like it. So the cream sauce is starting to thicken. Gone ahead and added my spices. I've gone with about a teaspoon of salt and about a half teaspoon of pepper. And I'm continuing to stir that and work that around again. I'm going to let it come to a simmer so that it gets nice and thick and so that I can get a good feel for it. So our cream sauce came to a slow simmer. We added 8 ounces of sharp cheddar cheese. I stirred it up and you can see this nice yellow-orange color. Bubbles coming out of it. Looks delicious. It tastes delicious. This is the point where you want to taste it for seasoning. If you need to add more salt, add more salt. If you need more pepper, add more pepper. And I like to put in about a tablespoon of hot sauce. So I've added about a tablespoon of Trappy's hot sauce. It's my favorite. You can pick your favorite, but I really feel like that hot sauce helps bring out the sharpness in that cheddar cheese. So I've added about 3 of the 5 cups of the cheese sauce I made to my macaroni. Stirred it up nicely. You can see a nice creamy looking mac and cheese starting to develop. So our macaroni and cheese is ready to bake in the oven. When you do bake it, you're going to want to cook it at 350 degrees for about 30 minutes. But I'm not going to cook mine right now. We're going to be taking this to my mother-in-law's house tonight for a Christmas celebration. Socially distanced, of course. But that's where my cheese sauce that I set aside comes in. I've set aside about 2 cups of this cheese sauce for later because I know that when I put this in the oven today, that pasta is going to absorb some of that cheese sauce, and I'm going to need to add a little bit more later on so that I can still have that nice creamy macaroni and cheese. Remember that creamy macaroni and cheese is really what my family likes and what I think you'll enjoy as well. And if you want to do that, you're going to want to kind of tune this up right before you put it in the oven with a little bit of that reserved cheese sauce. Regardless, when you are ready to bake it, you're going to finish with a layer of cheese on top. Just cut this into slices, place it on top of your macaroni and cheese, and then bake it off in a 350 degree oven for about a half hour until it's nice and warm throughout. You do have to cook that egg that you used as a binder. I want to finish today's video by saying Merry Christmas to my sister-in-law. I look forward to tasting your macaroni and cheese next time, and ask all of you to join me next time on Barbecuing with Bolen. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Barbecuing with Bolen. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit that like and that subscribe button down below. But most importantly, make sure you take time to get into the kitchen and cook for those people you love. We'll see you next time on Barbecuing with Bolen.